Welcome back to the deep dive. We're at a pretty significant mile marker today.
You really are. This is it.
Yeah, this is it. We are crossing the finish line of this massive marathon we've been running together for quite a while now. This is actually episode 12.
Episode 12, the finale.
Yeah.
The capstone of the whole thing.
Right, the grand finale of our series on Focal Point by Brian Tracy. And, I have to say, looking back at where we started...
And we started so tactically?
Very tactically, talking about the nuts and bolts of productivity, time management hacks, the mechanics of doubling your income.
Eating frogs.
Eating frogs, exactly. It's been this very practical journey, a lot of spreadsheets and calendars and, strict scheduling. But today feels entirely different.
It feels different because the destination has completely changed.
Mm-hmm.
We spent 11 episodes really just dissecting the mechanics of success.
Yeah.
We've been completely obsessed with the how. How to work faster, how to
Mm-hmm.
delegate, how to prioritize so you can get more done in less time.
Right.
But in this final chapter, Tracy he pulls the rug out from under us a little bit. He shifts from the mechanics to the meaning. We are finally talking about the why.
And honestly, when I first reviewed the material for this final section, I was expecting a summary.
Like a recap.
Yeah, a recap. I thought we'd get a checklist, sort of go get M. Tiger's speech and maybe quick review of the previous chapters. But instead, we get this incredibly deep psychological and spiritual pivot.
It really is a pivot.
It's almost like he's saying, okay, you've mastered the external world, you're efficient, you're rich, but if you don't fix the internal infrastructure, none of that productivity actually matters.
That is the core thesis of this final deep dive. You can be the most productive person in the graveyard. You can be the richest person in the divorce court. But if you haven't cultivated peace of mind, have you actually succeeded?
Right.
Tracy argues, and quite aggressively actually in this final section, that you haven't.
That is exactly the question we're grappling with today. And to kick this off, I want to start with something that completely threw me for a loop.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
It's this concept that Tracy introduces right at the beginning of this section to explain human motivation. And he drops a name I really did not expect to see in a business strategy book. Sigmund Freud.
Definitely not the name you expect to pop up next to advice on quarterly earnings or sales targets.
Not at all. So let's unpack this. We usually assume that high performers, the people listening to this deep dive right now, are motivated by the desire to be happy or successful. We think, I'm grinding this hard because I want to win.
Right, the pull of success.
Exactly. But Tracy dives into Freud's pleasure principle and just flips that assumption on its head. He says that's not actually what drives us.
It's a subtle distinction, but it completely changes how you view your own ambition. Freud argued, and Tracy highlights this, that the primary driver of human behavior is actually the desire to move away from pain.
Away from pain.
Yes. We aren't necessarily running toward a finish line. We are running away from discomfort.
That sounds a bit grim, doesn't it? Like we're all just, running from ghosts. Define pain in this context. We aren't just talking about physical pain, right?
No, although that's part of it for sure. We're talking about emotional pain, financial lack, frustration, or just this deep sense of inadequacy. We are constantly seeking to relieve a deep-seated sense of dissatisfaction.
So let me challenge you on this. You're saying that my drive to get a promotion isn't because I love the job or want the title, but because I'm dissatisfied with my current status.
In a lot of cases, yes. Tracy argues that every single human action is actually stimulated by a feeling of dissatisfaction.
Every action.
Every action. Think about it biologically for a second. If you were perfectly content, perfectly comfortable, had absolutely zero needs, and felt no pressure whatsoever, would you do anything?
Honestly, probably not. I'd just sit on the couch.
You wouldn't even move to the couch. You'd just be static.
Right.
Without that feeling of, this isn't quite right, or I need something more, we wouldn't grow. We wouldn't build skyscrapers, we wouldn't write books, we wouldn't change at all.
Okay, I see the logic there. But here's where it gets complicated for me. Usually when we feel dissatisfied, when we feel that sort of low-level hum of anxiety or frustration, we interpret it as a problem.
We pathologize it.
Exactly. We think something is broken or wrong with us. And what do? We try to numb it. We scroll social media for 2 hours. We eat comfort food. We distract ourselves with noise. We treat it like a headache we need to medicate.
We treat it as a symptom to be suppressed. We think, I shouldn't feel this way. I should be happy right now.
But the hook here, the real twist that Tracy presents, is that this dissatisfaction is actually a feature, not a bug. He calls it divine discontent.
Divine discontent, it's such a powerful reframe.
It really is.
It suggests that this restlessness you feel inside isn't a flaw in your mental makeup. It's a signal. It's fuel. It's your own psyche telling you that you are capable of a higher state of being. It's the necessary friction that forces you to break out of your comfort zone.
So instead of thinking, I'm unhappy, I need a drink, the reframe is, I'm dissatisfied, and that means I'm ready to level up.
Precisely.
Hmm.
The problem isn't the dissatisfaction itself. The problem is how we react to it. In the modern world, like you noted, we drown it out.
Yeah, with endless noise.
We refuse to listen to it. And because we don't listen to the signal, we never make the change. And we just stay stuck in that feeling of dissatisfaction forever. This final deep dive is really about learning how to stop numbing that feeling and start using it as a compass. A compass to find what Tracy calls the ultimate goal, which is peace of mind.
Peace of mind. It sounds nice, but it also sounds, well, a little soft.
A little fluffy.
Yeah, a little fluffy, especially after we've been talking about eating that frog and crushing quarterly goals for 11 episodes. But Tracy argues this is the highest human good. Why does he rank peace of mind above wealth or status?
Because it is the true measure of success. It's the metric that validates all the other metrics. If you have 10 million in the bank but you're completely riddled with anxiety, you cannot enjoy the millions. You're just rich and miserable.
That makes sense.
Tracy is pivoting to an inside-out approach here. He's saying that you cannot use external achievements to fix internal problems.
Break that down for us. What does the inside-out approach mean in actual practice?
It relies on the law of correspondence. This is a concept Tracy loves and references often. It states that your outer world will always be a reflection of your inner world.
Always.
Always. If your career is chaotic, it's likely because your inner world is disorganized. If your relationships are volatile, it's because there's volatility inside you that hasn't been addressed.
So you can't fix the reflection in the mirror by scrubbing the glass?
Exactly. You have to change the face in front of the mirror. And that leads us directly into our first major segment of this deep dive, which is spiritual development.
Now, I want to pause here for a second because I can hear some of you listening tensing up right now.
The S word.
Right. Before anyone tunes out because they hear the word spiritual and think we're about to get into religious dogma or theology, hold on. Tracy is very specific about how he defines this for a business audience, isn't he?
He is very careful with it. He's not talking about debating whose religion is right or whose is wrong. He explicitly says it's less about I'm right and you're wrong.
Yeah.
In the context of Focal Point, spiritual development is defined as the pursuit of personal fulfillment, learning, growth, and self-sacrifice. It's about connecting with something higher than yourself to find that peace of mind.
And he mentions that when you look across almost all traditions, whether it's Eastern philosophy, Western religion, or even secular humanism, there are these common threads regarding how we find guidance.
The biggest commonality he identifies is the idea of a higher power or a divine intelligence that actually wants the best for you.
Yeah.
It's the idea that the universe is not hostile.
It's benevolent.
It's benevolent. It's tilting the playing field in your favor if you actually know how to play the game.
And how does that help me make a business decision? Because guidance can feel very abstract when I'm, say, trying to decide whether to fire a toxic client or pivot a whole product line.
It guides us through what is often called the still, small voice, intuition. Tracy argues that high performers, think Steve Jobs, think Oprah, they don't just rely on spreadsheets. They rely on a highly tuned intuition.
But how do you tune it? Because I feel like sometimes my intuition is really just fear wearing a mask.
Oh, absolutely.
Or it's just wishful thinking because I want an easy way out. How do you distinguish the real signal from the noise?
Tracy argues that we all have this receiver built into us. But, and here's the massive caveat, we can only hear it when we are still. The signal is always broadcasting. We are just usually too loud to hear it.
So the noise is internal as well as external.
Exactly. The distinction you're asking about, distinguishing fear from intuition, usually clarifies itself in silence. Fear is loud, it's frantic, and it usually shouts at you.
Yeah.
Intuition is quiet, it's persistent, and it's calm.
Which brings us back to the noise problem we mentioned earlier. We are literally addicted to the loud stuff.
We are. But the mechanics of this are fascinating. Tracy says that the more you listen to your intuition and the more you actually trust it and act on it, the louder and more accurate it becomes over time. It's exactly like a muscle. If you ignore it, it atrophies.
I think we've all had that experience where you get a gut feeling to do something or maybe not to do something, and you ignore it because the data says otherwise, or because you don't want to rock the boat in a meeting. And then 2 weeks later, disaster strikes and you say, I knew it. I knew I shouldn't have done that.
That is the voice. That's the intuition. And ignoring it weakens your trust in yourself.
Hmm.
But there's another crucial point Tracy makes about this voice that I think is the most important part of this whole chapter. The voice within guides you to the right decision, but not necessarily the easy decision.
That's a critical distinction because we usually associate the right choice with feeling good immediately.
It's a huge distinction. Sometimes your intuition will tell you to quit that incredibly secure job, or to end a relationship that looks great on paper but feels fundamentally wrong, or to apologize when your ego just desperately wants to fight and be right.
Yeah, that's tough.
It's often very uncomfortable. But Tracy argues it is the only path to actual peace. If you ignore the voice to stay comfortable, you create that internal friction again, that divine discontent we talked about earlier.
So if we need stillness to hear this voice, and most of us are addicted to noise, how do we actually do it? Because Tracy doesn't just say, hey, chill out or take a vacation. He gives a very specific, almost medical protocol for this. Which brings us to Deep Dive Segment 2, the power of silence.
This is one of the most challenging exercises in the entire book. He calls it the solitude practice.
And he notes, quite rightly, I think, that people are terrified of this. I mean, Blaise Pascal famously said, all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone.
Tracy really doubles down on this idea. We fear silence because when the noise stops, we have to face ourselves. We have to face those thoughts and feelings we've been running from all day.
Mm.
When you remove the distraction, you're left with the reality of who you are and what you're doing.
So what is the actual prescription here? Walk us through the steps. Is this a form of meditation? Is it prayer?
It's actually simpler than that, but it's brutally difficult.
Mm-hmm.
He prescribes sitting alone in total silence.
Yep.
No music, no podcast playing in the background, no book to read, no phone, no notebook to jot down ideas. Just you in the room.
For how long?
For a full 60 minutes.
60 minutes, an entire hour. I've tried this, and I have to tell you, the first 10 minutes feel like an absolute eternity. I actually thought my watch had stopped.
That's part of the design. Tracy breaks down the timeline of what happens during this hour, and it's fascinating how predictable it is. He says that for the first 20 to 30 minutes, you will feel an almost physical urge to get up and leave the room.
Your skin crawls.
Yes, your mind will just race. You'll think about your laundry, your unread emails, that awkward thing you said in a meeting 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It is mental chaos.
He calls it the mud.
Right. You have to let the mud settle. Think of a glass of muddy water. If you keep stirring it, which is basically our daily life, it stays cloudy. You can't see through it. But if you let the glass sit perfectly still, eventually the dirt sinks to the bottom and the water becomes totally clear. That is what happens around the 30 or 40-minute mark of this exercise.
And that's when the shift happens.
That's when the divine intelligence kicks in. Tracy promises that if you can just stick it out past that initial discomfort, a profound sense of calm will wash over you. The anxiety just evaporates, and then ideas will start to flow.
And not just random ideas, right?
No. He says that the exact right answer to your biggest current problem will simply appear. It won't be a struggle. It won't be you racking your brain and making pros and cons lists. It will just float to the surface like a cork. And because the water is clear now, you'll recognize it immediately.
You won't just get an idea, you'll get the conviction to act on it.
Exactly. The doubt is gone.
I love the implication there that the answer is already inside us. It's just buried under layers of noise and stress. We don't need to go out and search the world for the answer. We need to stop long enough to let it reveal itself.
It goes right back to faith. You have to have faith that there is a guidance system within you. If you're constantly redlining your engine, you just can't hear the GPS telling you where to turn.
I have to ask, have you actually done this? The full 60-minute hour?
I have. And I won't lie, the first time I did it, I almost quit at minute 15. I felt so unproductive. I felt like I was literally wasting precious time I could be using to work. But around minute 45, I had an idea for a project I had been stuck on for months.
Really? It just hit you?
It just clicked. And the solution was so painfully simple. I couldn't believe I hadn't seen it before.
It's amazing how we confuse busyness with effectiveness. Sometimes the most effective thing you can possibly do for your career is sit in a chair and stare at a blank wall.
It's the ultimate productivity hack in disguise.
So we've got the internal work started, we're listening to the voice, we're practicing solitude, letting the mud settle. But focal point isn't just about sitting in a room alone feeling peaceful. It's about impact. And that leads us to Deep Dive Segment 3, Legacy and Community.
This is where we pivot from just finding peace of mind to finding meaning. You really can't talk about meaning without bringing in Viktor Frankl.
Man's Search for Meaning. If you are listening to this and haven't read it, literally pause this deep dive right now, go order it, and come back. But give us the context here. Why does Tracy bring a Holocaust survivor into a book that started off talking about doubling your income?
Because Frankl was a psychiatrist who survived the concentration camps, and he observed something profound there. He saw that the people who survived weren't necessarily the physically strongest or the youngest. They were the ones who had a deep sense of meaning. They had a purpose that gave them a reason to endure unimaginable suffering.
He found that the strongest driving force in the human psyche isn't pleasure, so sorry Freud, and it isn't power, sorry Adler, it's meaning.
Right. And Tracy connects this directly to the concept of self-transcendence. We are biologically and spiritually wired to connect to something bigger than ourselves. You cannot find lasting meaning just by serving yourself. It's impossible. Meaning is a byproduct of benefiting the community.
It's the great paradox of happiness, isn't it? If you chase happiness directly, you rarely ever find it. It slips right through your fingers. But if you chase service and contribution, happiness shows up as a side effect.
So how do we operationalize this? Because Tracy is, at his core, all about practical steps. He starts with values. Legacy begins with identifying what you actually care about, what moves you emotionally.
Yep.
Is it compassion? Is it freedom? Is it education for children? You have to identify what breaks your heart or what makes your heart sing.
And once you know that, he talks about tithing. Now, usually tithing is a strictly religious concept, right? Giving 10% of your income to the church. But Tracy expands this for the secular world, too.
He does advise giving 10% of your income to worthy causes. He calls it a great habit because it breaks the hold that money has on you. It reminds you that you are a steward of your resources, not just a hoarder building a pile of gold. But he also introduces the concept of tithing time.
I really liked this part because, let's be honest, not everyone listening is in a position to write big checks, especially if they're early in their career or currently bootstrapping a business. But everyone has time.
And often, giving yourself is significantly more valuable than giving money. Volunteering, mentoring someone younger in your industry, serving on a local board. But Tracy adds a very business-like caveat here, which I appreciate. He says, investigate before you invest.
Yes, don't just throw your money or your Saturday afternoons at the very first charity that asks.
Treat it exactly like a venture capital investment. You want a return on that investment. Not a financial profit for you, obviously, but a tangible impact for the world. Is this organization actually effective? Do they really help people? Or is it mostly administrative overhead? You have a responsibility to ensure your contribution is actually doing good, not just making you feel good.
And the final practical tip on legacy that I thought was just brilliant, schedule it.
Treat social contribution like a strict business appointment.
Yeah.
If you just say, oh, I'll volunteer when I have some free time, you will never have free time.
Never.
You have to put it on the calendar. Tuesday nights at the shelter, Saturday mornings at the park cleanup. Whatever it is, you have to back your good intentions with specific scheduled actions.
Do it today, do it now. That's a classic Tracy mantra we've heard for 11 episodes.
It is. Legacy isn't something you leave suddenly when you die. It's something you build brick by brick every single day while you're alive.
Moving on, we have to talk about how we treat others on a micro level. We've talked about big picture legacy, but what about our daily interactions? This brings us to Deep Dive Segment 4, the Golden Rule and the Hierarchy of Values.
The Golden Rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's what Tracy calls the universal. Almost every culture and philosophy on Earth has some version of this. But Tracy gives us a specific visualization to make it actually stick in our behavior.
He asked us to imagine a world where everyone acted exactly like us. But before we get to that exercise, which is actually going to be our micro habit for today, let's talk about the hierarchy of values he outlines, because I think people really struggle with this. We all want to be good, but good is so vague.
He lists them out explicitly, so it's not vague. Peace, love, joy, compassion, forgiveness, self-control. He suggests writing these down and actually ranking them. What is your absolute highest value? Because if you value peace above all else, that changes how you react when someone cuts you off in traffic.
That's a great example. If my highest stated value is peace, and I get extreme road rage because a guy merged without a blinker, I am directly violating my own hierarchy. I am creating that internal conflict we talked about.
Exactly. And that brings us to the slip and recover method. Because let's face it, we are human. We aren't enlightened robots. We will get angry in traffic. We'll be selfish sometimes. We will slip.
I love this concept so much because it removes the shame from the process of personal growth. It acknowledges that we are a work in progress.
The goal isn't immediate perfection. It's correction. When you slip, when you snap at your spouse or unfairly judge a colleague, you catch yourself. You say, whoops, that's not who I am trying to be. And you recover. You apologize immediately. You reset.
You don't just wallow in the mistake.
Right. Tracy says that over time, if you keep catching yourself and resetting, that value eventually becomes part of your permanent character. It moves from requiring intense conscious effort to just being your subconscious identity.
It's like building muscle memory for your soul. You have to drill it over and over, just like you drill a tennis serve or a golf swing.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And part of that muscle memory is developing the habit of finding the good. Tracy says we should look for the lesson in every single setback.
Which connects perfectly back to that idea of the benevolent universe. If I genuinely believe the universe is guiding me and wants the best for me, then this flat tire on my way to work isn't just a hassle.
That's a redirection.
Right. It's,
Yeah.
well, maybe it kept me from being in a massive accident 2 miles further down the road. Or maybe it's just teaching me the patience I need for a meeting later today.
Tracy calls this inverse paranoia. Believe the world is plotting to do you good. Whatever is happening contains a hidden benefit. If you look for it, you will find it. And if you find it, you maintain your peace of mind. If you don't look for it, you just get angry and stressed. It really is a choice.
So we've covered the internal voice, the power of silence, building a legacy, and organizing our values. Now, as we approach the very end of the book, Tracy leaves us with 7 lessons for the 21st century.
The grand summary.
These are like rapid-fire truths to carry with us. I want to spend some time on these because they really synthesize the entire book. These aren't just tips. They're almost like operating principles for life.
Let's run through them. They are fantastic.
Lesson number 1. Life gets better when you get better.
This is the ultimate radical ownership principle. Most people spend their lives waiting for the external world to change. They wait for the economy to improve. They wait for their boss to be nicer, for their spouse to be more understanding.
Waiting for luck.
Yes. Tracy says, stop waiting. Focus entirely on your inner world, your own skills, and your own character. As you improve, your life automatically improves to match you. You attract what you become.
Lesson number 2. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. All that matters is where you're going.
This addresses the sunk cost fallacy of our personal lives. We get so bogged down by our past, our background, our parents, our past mistakes, maybe our lack of formal education. Tracy just dismisses all of that. He says those are sunk costs.
You can't get refunds on the past.
Exactly. You can't change them. The only thing you can actually influence is the future. It's about cutting the anchor chain so the boat can finally move forward.
Lesson number 3. Anything worth doing is worth doing poorly at first.
This completely shatters the perfectionism trap. High achievers are often terrified to start something new because they don't want to look foolish or incompetent. But you literally have to be terrible at something before you can be good at it.
It's the cost of entry.
You have to write bad sentences to eventually write a good book. You have to make awkward, terrible sales calls to become a great salesperson.
It gives you permission to suck. I think that's incredibly liberating. In our culture, we always see the finished, polished product on social media, not the messy, embarrassing prototype.
Right. And knowing that the poorly phase is temporary helps you actually push through it instead of quitting on day 2.
Lesson number 4. You are as free as your options.
This is a very practical, almost structural lesson. Freedom isn't just a mindset. It's a structural reality in your life. If you only have one customer for your business, you are not free.
You're a hostage.
Yes. If you only have one skill, you are vulnerable. If you depend on one single person for your entire emotional stability, you are trapped. Freedom comes from actively developing alternatives. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Build skills and networks that give you leverage.
Lesson number 5. Within every problem or difficulty, there is the seed of an equal or greater advantage or benefit.
We touch on this with the inverse paranoia idea. Believe that the world is actively plotting to do you good. When a big deal falls through, assume it's because a much better deal is coming down the pipeline and you needed the capacity for it. Seek the seed and you shall find it. It turns you from a victim into a treasure hunter.
Lesson number 6. You can learn anything you need to learn.
Humans are basically learning organisms. The brain is plastic. It can grow and adapt and rewire itself until the day we die. There is no skill you cannot master if you apply yourself to it.
No.
If you need to learn public speaking to achieve your goal, you can learn it. If you need to learn coding, you can learn it. There is no, oh, I'm just not good at math. There is only, I haven't learned math yet.
That distinction, just adding the word yet, changes everything about how you view yourself.
It does. It moves you instantly from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset.
And finally, lesson number 7. The only real limits are in your own mind.
The ultimate conclusion to focal point. The external world has barriers. Sure, gravity exists. But the barriers that actually stop us from achieving our potential are almost always entirely internal.
The stories we tell ourselves.
Fear, doubt, limiting beliefs. Once you dismantle those mental walls, the physical walls tend to fall down pretty easily.
It's an incredibly powerful way to close the loop. We started this episode talking about the pleasure principle and being driven by dissatisfaction, and we end with the realization that we are essentially limitless if we choose to be.
It brings everything back to personal agency. You are in the driver's seat.
So that brings us to the actionable part of the show. We've covered a ton of theory today, but how do we apply this today, right now? What is our micro habit?
This week, we are using the K-Wink analysis and combining it with the golden question.
K-W-I-N-K.
K-W-I-N-K.
K-W-I-N-K. It stands for knowing what I know now. It's a tool for clearing out the baggage of the past to make room for the future. You look at every single area of your life, your job, your relationships, your investments, your daily habits, and you ask this specific question. Knowing what I know now, is there anything I am doing today that I wouldn't start up again if I had to do it over?
Oh, wow. That is a dangerous question. That's a question that can blow up your life in a good way, hopefully, but still. It's a deeply confronting question. Maybe it's a committee you joined a year ago that just drains your energy. Maybe it's a legacy client who doesn't pay on time and stresses out your team. Maybe it's a bad habit like smoking or doom scrolling before bed. If the honest answer is no, I wouldn't start this again knowing what I know now, then you have to have the courage to get out of it.
And what about the golden question? How does that fit in?
This is the visualization we hinted at earlier when discussing the golden rule. When you are making a decision or evaluating your own behavior, ask yourself this: what would the world, my business, or my family be like if everyone in it acted exactly like me?
Man, that puts a pressure on.
It really does. If everyone in your company worked with your exact level of focus and integrity, would the company be wildly successful? Or would it go bankrupt in a month?
Right.
If everyone in your family communicated exactly the way you communicate when you're stressed, would it be a loving, supportive home? Or a complete war zone?
So the micro habit is to use this specific question to identify just one negative habit or behavior to stop. Just one. Don't try to overhaul your whole personality overnight, right?
Exactly. Start small.
Yeah.
Catch yourself doing something out of alignment with your values, ask the golden question, and then simply have the character to change course. As Tracy says, the only question is whether you have the courage and character to take the action you know you need to take.
Powerful stuff. Truly. Before we wrap up, we need to anchor this whole episode with our power quote. We've had some great ones throughout this 12-part series, but this one really sums up the resilience needed for this internal spiritual journey we've mapped out today.
It's a quote that reframes struggle completely. Tracy writes, "The bigger the blessing, the bigger the problem that comes wrapped in."
The bigger the blessing, the bigger the problem that comes wrapped in.
It reminds us that when we face a massive challenge or a painful setback, it's not a sign from the universe to quit. It's a sign that a massive breakthrough is waiting for you on the other side. The problem is just the wrapping paper. You have to tear through it to get the gift inside.
That is the absolute perfect note to end on. It gives real purpose to the struggle.
It really does.
And with that, we are officially closing the book on Focal Point. We've done 12 full episodes on this material. We've gone from the absolute nitty-gritty of time management and delegation all the way to the soul, legacy, and finding inner peace.
It's been an incredible journey, and I really hope for everyone listening to this right now that you haven't just passively listened to these concepts, but that you've actively applied these ideas to your life. Because remember, knowledge without action is just trivia.
Exactly. You are a learning organism with unlimited potential. The only thing standing between you and your perfect world is the decision to listen to that quiet voice within you and then actually act on it.
Well said.
Now, here's the deal for everyone listening. We are done with Brian Tracy for now. We need to know where to go next. We build this show for you. So if you're listening to this, drop a comment below. Tell us which personal development book or which author you want us to deep dive into next.
We want to hear from you. Do you want more classic business strategy stuff? Do you want to pivot to psychology? Biographies of great leaders, health and wellness? Let us know. We literally read every single comment.